come to this interview with me.
Yeah, no
So I got a
problem.
few questions over freedom of speech, if you don't mind answering for me.
Yeah, no problem.
Your own opinion. So what does freedom of speech mean to you?
Freedom of speech to me is the ability to voice your opinions, no matter how unpopular they be, without fear of somebody who might take offense to or might not agree with it taking harmful actions towards you.
As our First Amendment, you got the freedom of speech, and you can
Mhm.
say whatever you want, and you say as far as you want. But apparently, like nowadays, there's so many some people say there's going too far. How far is for you when it comes to freedom of speech?
For me, how far it is too far is whenever you start to A, threaten people, or B, belittle them. Because to me, freedom of speech is your right to invoke intellectual conversation. It's not going up to somebody and insulting them or degrading them and then falling with that, I can voice my opinion, it's freedom of speech. Because at that point, it's, for lack of a better term, it's just bullying at that point. Freedom of speech for me, it's like going too far is that you can't attack somebody, you have to be able to converse. If that makes sense.
That makes sense. So, since it is one of our amendments, one of our rights as an American citizen to be able to have freedom of speech, do you think there should still be restrictions on what you can say with your freedom of speech, or how far you can go with them?
I would say, yeah, kind of like how I answered the last question, is just not attacking somebody, conversing. So I can't go and insult somebody, I can't go and threaten somebody's life, because that oversteps the bounds. Freedom of speech is me saying, I might not agree with your political opinions, but because they're my opinions, not because you're wrong in the universe.
Uh, One restriction that is on freedom of speech is like graffiti. Some people say graffiti is a freedom of speech, somebody expressing themselves, and there are restrictions on it. You can't just spray paint anything you want. So do you classify graffiti as a freedom of speech, and do you think there should be restrictions on that, or should they be able to do what they want with it?
I can see graffiti as a freedom of speech, freedom of expression. Because being back from where I am from, I'm from St. Louis. So whenever you drive through northern St. Louis or some of the poorer areas, you see a lot of condemned buildings that people don't live in. They're falling apart. The city's condemned them. You're not allowed to go inside. You can die. So what a lot of the inner city people do is they'll go there and they'll graffiti it. And it's beautiful artwork. But it's on condemned buildings that are destined one day to be destroyed. So to me, I can see people letting people graffiti stuff that's going to be destroyed one day, not going up and graffitiing the arch or graffitiing this brand new multi-million-dollar building, but graffitiing the small stuff that people don't even care about.
Last question. Getting off the restriction part of everything. So in this last presidential election, we saw a lot of tweets and Facebook and Instagram posts from both candidates, Mr. Trump and Mrs. Clinton. Do you think using those social media platforms as a form of their freedom of speech, and should they be restricted on what they can post about their other candidate?
Uh, yes and no, because how a lot of presidential elections worked is that how the presidents reach their audience has evolved. Like it usually start with just going on tour and meeting people face to face. Then it started with newspapers. Eventually, FDR transformed it to radio, and nowadays it's television and even social media. But what I saw a lot in that election was a lot of what I was talking about earlier, a lot of attacking and belittling, where it wasn't conversations about actual things, it was one party insulting the other party, one party calling the party wrong. So that's my restrictions. I don't believe that especially politicians that are supposed to lead this country, supposed to be the future of this country, should show, especially younger generations, it's okay to just belittle somebody because you don't agree with them.
Well, thank you for taking time out of your day to interview us. All right, be interviewed. Sorry about that. About freedom of speech. I think a lot of our audience have learned a lot from this, and thank you for giving us your point of view.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for letting me talk for you.